feeling stuck in your personal growth? In this video, I'm going to reveal to you the 4 habits that are secretly holding you back. And if you do nothing else, the 4th one alone will propel you so much further than the first 3 combined. Stick around to learn how to break free and to really kickstart your own personal growth. Being a part of the personal development space and having been a participant for many, many years, one of these things that I found is that people took comfort in the act of researching about how personal growth works, what this person has to say, or that person has to say, or that person has to say. And in this process of doing the research, they feel like we're accomplishing something. Now, research isn't a bad thing by any means. Even I found myself in this loop of constantly learning, because it seemed like I took comfort in the idea that if I was learning from somebody, then I was taking actual steps and making real progress, but never actually implementing. And even if you learn, but don't implement, have you actually learned? Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to learn. As a matter of fact, one of the things we're going to cover here in these steps is how to learn, and to learn from many perspectives, because it is important. Even more importantly, how action, even if it's imperfect, is better than just research alone. The first thing I want to cover is self-reflection. To take a moment and understand where you are at is going to be a very powerful step in actually realizing personal growth. When I know where I'm at, I empower myself to change. So for example, if I can just take this first step and realize that I'm not exactly where I want to be because I haven't taken the exact steps to get there, giving myself the basis and the foundation to progress forward. Because if it's always somebody else's fault, then I remove my ability to change. The first step in overcoming this is to stop blaming external factors. So as a prime example, as I covered in my previous video, I had everything set up to start recording videos, but I didn't take the action because the lighting wasn't right or my sound wasn't right, which, by the way, I think I fixed. I do actually really like this mic, and it seems to have so much more quality than the other 3 that I tried. But I was allowing this excuse to hold me back when in reality it was fear. And when I took a moment to actually acknowledge that I was afraid, I was able to analyze it and say, I'm afraid. And the only way to overcome this was to ask myself some pretty interesting open questions like, what is holding me back? And if it was just fear, then I was empowering myself to take the steps to overcome that fear. Now, there are some things that you can do to kind of help yourself get into the habit of being able to self-reflect and analyze. Maybe start journaling on a daily basis. What are my fears? What is it that I want to accomplish that I haven't been? Now, we covered this a little bit in that previous video about writing down what our fears are so that we can analyze it and overcome it. We keep doing this process until all reasons that we haven't progressed forward point back to self and the things that I can control. Because if it's always somebody else's fault that I haven't started, it will always be somebody else's fault. So when I'm able to trace it back to the thing that I'm doing that's holding me back, I can actually start enacting real change. Which leads us to the second point. As we talked about earlier, research is important. To be able to progress, you either have to go through something yourself to learn the skills that you need to become successful at it, or you can learn it from somebody else. And if you learn it from somebody else, you usually do this through either interviews, or if this person is no longer with us, autobiographies, books, articles, blog posts. Learning a skill from somebody else who has gone through it will help propel us past the having to do it ourselves. So if I want to skip the whole going through it myself part, then I need to take the time to research. And in this research process, if I look at it from the viewpoint of several different people, let's say that we're using YouTube as an example, and I want to learn about something. If I watch one video, I'm generally given one perspective on how to complete that thing. And that's fine, But if I start taking the action towards that thing, I'm only looking at it from one perspective because I haven't gone through it myself, and I know that this person who has gone through a similar challenge, but it may not be my challenge. And so what I do then is I will look at that same topic, but I will probably watch 10, 15, 20 videos on the topic. And what this does is it unlocks a kind of a cool little superpower of what I like to call creativity. When you're able to look at one challenge, but you're able to see it from the viewpoint of 20 different vantage points or the 20 different videos that I've researched, I can be creative in the solution to my own personal problem, as it may not exactly align with what everyone else has gone through. But because I can see it from different perspectives, I can formulate a plan that may be more specific to me to help me navigate what that challenge is. So let's say, for example, I need to change the oil in my car. I can actually go in and just try it myself and start unloosening bolts, but I might find myself without an alternator. Or I can go to YouTube, type in my exact vehicle model and make, and see how 3, 4, 5 different people, 10, 20 different people are attacking this issue. Either way, when you go into it, you're going to go into it with so much more knowledge than you ever had just trying it on your own. But there is a point of diminishing returns. You can become what I call a professigator. You investigate, you investigate, you investigate, and you're feeling accomplished because you're investigating, and you become very professional at it, thus being a professional investigator. You have to draw the line somewhere and then take the next step. When I talk about step 3 and 4, you're going to see how even step 4 is so much more important than the first 3. Let's talk about step 3. And this is important because by not implementing the third step, you actually perpetuate the professional investigator mindset. And the third one is overcoming the fear of imperfection. Now, I'm going to make the case that we often wait for the perfect plan or the perfect time to start, but that is so much less important than the actual act of starting. What is it about imperfection that we fear? Is it judgment from others? Is it judgment upon ourselves? Is it the fact that we don't know the outcome? So what is fear? Fear is not knowing. And the only way to actually start knowing is to do. And even if you fail, that gives you more information than you would have ever had not starting. So this video itself, it's not perfect. And even my previous video, not perfect. As a matter of fact, there was more jump cuts than I think people jump on a trampoline. That was a terrible reference. Gosh, I need to work on my examples. Was that a dad example? Because it was terrible. The first step of overcoming the fear of imperfection is reframing what imperfection means, or reframing failure. If we see failure as an end, we won't start. But if we see failure as a step in the process of becoming better at what we're trying to accomplish, then we can expect it and then use that as a stepping stool to overcome it. It only becomes a failure if it stops us from progressing. Fail! It only becomes a true failure if it stops us from progressing. The second step is start small. I have big visions for what I want for my weight loss. At 285 pounds, I have got so much more to go. But if I always see it as I'm trying to lose 100 pounds overall or 110 pounds overall, I'm going to get demotivated because no one's going to lose 100 pounds overnight without cutting something off. And so what we have to do is say, my next step is going to be, I'm at 285 and I've been here for a minute, and sometimes I even go back up to 290, but I can't let that hold me back. My next step is 275, and that's the thing I'm focusing on. So reframe what failure is. If I hit back up to 290, then that's just an indicator to me that I need to change something to be able to start progressing forward again. And a little mantra that you can kind of give yourself is, done is better than perfect. If I was waiting for perfect to start my YouTube channel, I still wouldn't be on this platform right now. Now, before we continue, if you like what it is we're talking about, be sure to leave a like and a subscribe. You know what to do. I don't necessarily have to talk about that, but it really helps out the channel and helps keep this content coming. And let's talk about step 4. Finally, we're here. And if we implement this by itself, will be so much more powerful than combining the other 3. But implementing the other 3 and doing it well helps us with step 4. And that is, we need to stop confusing motivation with discipline. Anyone can feel motivated. That's the reason why at the beginning of the year, gym memberships go up because everyone's motivated to get the new you. But it's those who have the discipline to keep going and to keep doing that make it to their goals. And so January through March, motivation is high. People are there. A fraction of those people are still sticking around by the end of the year. Maybe I saw a video that motivated me to get started. And that's awesome. It's a great place to start. I don't want to downplay the importance of motivation. But to decide that I'm going to do this no matter what. So what stifles this growth is when the motivation or the excitement of the thing goes away, so does our desire to do it. And it doesn't matter what it is. Let's say you want to start writing a blog, or let's say that you want to start a new workout routine. Maybe you want to eat healthier. Unless we make it part of our normal process, we will never switch from motivation to discipline. So take the time and say, no matter what, I'm going to do this thing. And that's when it's the easiest. It's easy when it's easy. When I make that decision, it's easy. But when I wake up in the morning and it's raining and it's snowing, I still need to make the decision to go. So how do I implement this? Well, if you can track it, you can change it. So if your goal is weight loss, get a weight loss tracker. If your goal is better finances, get a finance tracker. If your goal is becoming a better bowler, make sure that you mark down the things that you're doing right and the things that you could improve upon as you're going bowling. Tracking it makes it possible to change. Have you ever heard the analogy that on a road trip, it's not about the destination, it's the journey that it takes to get there? It's the same thing with personal development. Focus on the journey. Don't focus on the destination to the point where it becomes overwhelming. You do need to see the destination, but it's the process and the little steps that I take in the process of getting to that destination that is most important. A definitive thing that you can do to help go from motivation to discipline is to understand why you're doing that thing. When I was at 330 pounds and needing to lose the weight, I had to decide, why am I doing this? Well, first and foremost, I want to improve my health, because at some point, my children are going to grow and I'm going to be a granddad. And I want to be the kind of granddad that gets down on the floor and wrestles with the kids, the grandbabies. I think that's important to me. I want to be healthy to be with my wife for as long as I possibly can, because she is my world and I adore her. My why is the thing that I keep focusing on, so that when I want that jelly donut, my goal is in the distance and I can see it, and it's so much bigger than eating the jelly donut that I don't even have to think about it. I want that, and this is just a step in my way. I don't need that, because that's what I want. So in recapping, research is important, but don't get stuck there. If you get stuck there, you're going to get into an endless loop. You're going to feel that dopamine hit that says, hey, I'm doing the right things and I am progressing. But unless I move from the research phase to start taking action, then I will never progress. And that's where I was stuck for a long time. And I imagine maybe you are too. Make sure we start small. Be sure to limit your research time. Do the research so that you don't have to just experiment and fail and go through those motions yourself. If you can learn from somebody else, great. Keep going. Learn from it, and then skip that part. Embrace imperfection, and then reflect and adjust. Go from motivation to discipline. Make the decision that I'm going to take the action, and I'm going to do it no matter what. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it's necessary if you really, truly want to propel your personal development forward. Personal development isn't about being perfect. It's about the process of reaching your goals. So in keeping in the spirit of step number 4, what is the action that you're going to take? What are you going to write down? What is the thing that you want to do now to propel your own personal growth forward? And write it down. So what's the one goal that you've been overthinking and haven't started yet? Maybe share that in the comments. And let's make today the day that we start action. I know I've made reference to my previous and first video on this channel, and if you want to see what that looks like, be sure to click up here to understand the difference between the progress I've made from that one to this one, to see these steps in action. I know that if you take these steps, you're going to do fantastic things. And if there's any advice that I can give to help get you there, I'm going to do it. Keep giving it your best go. You got this.